Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are tackling a massive roadblock I see all the time, bridging that frustrating gap between doing incredible work and actually getting people to recognize its value. Because let's be real, your career doesn't just advance based on your raw skills. It advances based on how well you can communicate those skills to the people who actually make the decisions. I mean, think about it. Have you ever easily crushed a technical round, but then somehow totally stalled out when talking to the hiring manager? It is literally the worst feeling. You've got the skills, the resume is glowing, you did the hard work, but when it's time to actually sit down and close the deal, you just can't seem to position yourself as the top pick. So why exactly does this happen to so many highly skilled professionals? Well, here's the absolute core of the issue. We're all basically trained to just keep our heads down, do the work, and assume the results will magically speak for themselves. But as our sources today highlight, and I absolutely love this quote, the work doesn't speak in interviews. You have to speak for it. It's a completely different muscle you have to flex. To help you build that muscle, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the foundations of effective communication, touch on some unspoken rules, tackle the hiring manager challenge, master the STAR method, and finally, learn exactly how to own your narrative. All right, let's jump right into section 1, foundations of effective communication and the daily habits for success. Look, becoming a great communicator isn't an overnight magic trick, right? It is a compounding effect of small, consistent, daily habits. Drawing on some great insights from Harvard DCE, we see exactly what these habits look like. First up, actually listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Be clear and concise. Before you speak, ask yourself, what is the one single takeaway I want this person to have? Also, practice this stuff in low-stakes situations to build up your conversational confidence. And of course, always tailor your message to whoever is sitting across from you. Moving on to section 2, the unspoken rules. We're talking listening and nonverbal cues. Because communication absolutely isn't just about the words coming out of your mouth. It heavily depends on how you take information in and the physical vibe you are projecting. Get this. According to communication expert Marjorie North, we only actually hear about 50% of what the other person is saying in any given conversation. Just half. Our minds wander, we get distracted, or we're too busy formulating our genius comeback before they've even finished their sentence. That is exactly why active listening, clearing your mind, and giving them your undivided attention is an absolute game changer. And here is a stat that will blow your mind. Nonverbal cues, things like your posture and your eye contact, carry 65 to 93% more impact than your actual spoken words. Think about that. Harvard DCE points out that if your words say, hey, I'm confident, but your arms are crossed and you're staring at the floor, people are going to believe your body language every single time. It completely overrides what you are saying. Okay, section 3, the hiring manager challenge. This is the ultimate test. This is where the rubber meets the road. You've aced the technical assessment, and now you are face-to-face with the boss deciding if you join their team. Now, what's fascinating here is the total whiplash between these two rounds. In a technical interview, you are heavily rewarded for being super precise, incredibly modest, and just strictly sticking to the facts. But the hiring manager round, that's a totally different game. They aren't really testing your raw knowledge anymore. They are testing who you are. You have to flip a switch and become confident, story-driven, and honestly, a bit self-promotional. For someone who spent years just trying to be perfectly accurate and humble, this shift feels so incredibly unnatural. And because it feels awkward, highly skilled folks fall into these exact traps. They undersell themselves, saying stuff like, oh, it was just a small feature, or the team did most of it. They give these tiny, dry, factual answers instead of painting a vivid picture of a challenge they crushed. And the worst part? Their nerves make them go totally monotone. They sound flat, which the manager instantly misreads as a total lack of passion for the job. So how do we fix it? That brings us to section 4, mastering the STAR method. This is your playbook for nailing those behavioral questions under pressure without just rambling on and on. You've probably heard of STAR, situation, task, action, and result. But here is the secret sauce. 60% of your time needs to be spent on the action step, using the word I. Don't get bogged down in the backstory. Give them 1 or 2 sentences for the situation and task. Then camp out in the action. What did you specifically do? And finally, you absolutely must land the plane with a result. Give them the numbers and quantify that impact. The real pro tip here is to prepare 5 to 7 signature stories ahead of time. Think about common themes, a time you stepped up as a leader, a massive failure you learned from, or a super complex problem you solved. But here's the catch. You have to practice them out loud. Seriously, it sounds way different in the air than it does in your head. Otherwise, you'll get halfway through, panic, get lost in the technical weeds, and totally forget to mention the amazing result you delivered. Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, owning your narrative. Because knowing the STAR method is fantastic, but if you walk into that room not truly believing you're a top-tier candidate, they won't believe it either. We need to shift your language from passive participation to total, unapologetic ownership. Take this real-world example from our sources. There was this Gen AI engineer doing phenomenal work, literally built 4 production AI systems completely solo, but they were bombing the manager rounds. Why? Because they were walking in there with junior energy. Instead of saying, I architected and solo built a production system, they just say, yeah, I worked on a project. It's the exact same fact, but the impact is wildly different. They had to stop acting like a junior and start walking in feeling like the top 1% specialist they actually were. Honestly, these vocabulary swaps are a total game changer. These immediate language changes instantly reframe you as an authority. Stop saying, I helped build if you were the main developer. Say, I architected. Ditch, it went well, and confidently state, we hit this specific metric. Replace, I'm still learning with, I'm deepening my expertise. This isn't bragging, and it definitely isn't lying. It is simply accurate, confident framing of your own hard work. You also have to shift the power dynamic by asking really strategic questions. Ask them what their technical roadmap looks like or what success looks like for this role in the first 90 days. When you do this, you instantly stop being just a candidate hoping for a job, and you become a professional peer evaluating a mutual fit. Ask them about the hardest problem their team is facing right now. It changes the entire energy of the room. And remember, at the end of the day, hiring managers often just hire the person they genuinely enjoyed talking to. Treating the interview as a conversation between 2 professionals naturally relaxes your body language. You'll smile more, you'll lean in, your tone will improve. If you stop treating it like an interrogation, your natural enthusiasm will finally shine through. Energy and likability are massive, massive factors. Wrap it up by telling them you are genuinely pumped about the role, reiterate exactly what value you bring, and confidently ask for next steps. You'd be amazed how few candidates actually do this, and the ones who do get remembered. So as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this. If you could change just one single phrase in your next big interview, what would it be? And how might that one small shift completely alter the trajectory of your entire career?